So, this is my presentation for Applied Principle of Teaching in Physical Education. This second presentation following on from assignment 1, which was the SWOT analysis of my personal traits and professional traits within teaching. So, content. So what to expect during the presentation. During the presentation, you'll get a better outline of where my placements were taking place, what my placement entailed, so what I did during the placement, how my placement and my work related to the national curriculum, the PLTS model, teaching standards, and also teaching concepts as well, so it gives a little bit of a clearer understanding of that. Also, I will provide a second SWOT analysis on my placement, so how I feel my SWOT analysis either improved or weakened, what areas I improved in, what areas I struggled in, and what areas I learned about the threats and opportunities as well. Also, I will talk about significant moments of the placement, so how that made me feel and how it affected me as a teacher as well, and effectively, am I ready to teach? So, start off with where was my PE placement taking part in? So where did I do my PE placement? So first of all, I did the Healthy Schools project, part of UCLan. This was, like I just said, an organised event from UCLan where undergraduate students like myself and my peers went into different, schools came to us at UCLan Sports Arena or at the Sir Tom Finney to get taught physical education by ourselves. So this gave the opportunity for undergraduate students to gain the experience they need to potentially get on their PGCE at the end of the year 3 and potentially become a PE teacher, as I'll talk about further on in the presentation, as a lot of PE teaching jobs demand experience as well, so it gives the experience that's needed. Not only this, but the Healthy Schools project also allows schools across from Lancashire to have a day out to get reputation known for the students as myself, and also to interact with other teachers as well, get to know what they're about, get to know what teaching's about, and also potentially maybe get a few contact numbers for the future as well. So, moving on. I also did my placement as well to gain extra hours at AFC Fylde. So what did I do at AFC Fylde? So it might seem like a football club, but there's a lot more going on than just football. So when I was at AFC Fylde, I looked after the youth team there, so the under-18s on their programme as well as the futsal lads. What happened there was I did a few coaching sessions for the under-18s, but that doesn't really link to the placement. The thing that relates and links to the placement set from UCLan and what links to this module is the work I did behind closed doors, so during the education side, which I was a classroom assistant, helped out on modules and stuff, and then also there's some modules, for example health and fitness, that they did which required me to put a session plan together for them to deliver fitness components, testing on each other, and made sure that ran smoothly as well. So that was just one example of what I did during the placement. It also allowed me to get experience within the areas that I want to work in as a teacher when I hopefully graduate from UCLan. So I want to look at high school to college teaching, don't really want to work with primary schools, so this gave me the experience of looking into what it'd be like to work with 18+ year olds. So, what did my placement entail? So in this presentation I will be focusing on the Healthy Schools project. I will touch on AFC Fylde, but I will be focusing on the Healthy Schools. So the Healthy Schools project, it allowed me to write and plan accurate and effective lesson plans which would replicate what teachers use in everyday life really for their job, which allowed me to do these lesson plans also allowed me, which I mentioned in the presentation 1, it allowed me to develop my knowledge around the national curriculum, especially the PE side, because before this presentation in assignment 1 and before placement, I was really struggling to come to terms with what the national curriculum required and how it linked to PE as well. So doing lesson plans for the Healthy Schools project and putting lessons on for schools allowed me to understand a lot more about the national curriculum. So, not only this, but it allowed me to deal with self-control and teaching of pupils of younger ages as well. So for example, obviously I was working with AOC Fylde in the older ages there for placement, so working with Healthy Schools, it allowed me to work with primary school pupils, should I say, and allow me to understand a range of different techniques that I need to use. For example, how I come across to them, different vocabulary changes from under 18s football and college lads to a mix of genders within primary schools as well. So the way I come across and the way I teach as well. For example, with under 18s I was a little bit more relaxed, had a little bit of a rapport with the lads, whereas with primary school teaching I had to be a little bit stricter, I had to come across a little bit more formal, and also the way I spoke to them would have to differ as well, massively. The Healthy Schools project also allowed me to use organisation skills. This was between myself, so I had to organise myself really, I had to organise with peers, I had to organise with events organisers and teachers as well, so it was quite a big deal. And also the Healthy Schools project allowed me to lead a particular day with a fellow peer, so just two of us leading a day, and how I would get along with that would be tested. So, what day did I lead? So, me and Lewis Williams led the Regional Schools Handball Championships 2018. So this was where schools all across Lancashire had competed prior to this event in a handball competition, and then all of a sudden this allowed the finals of each region of Lancashire to come together to compete. This was the first time it was held at UCLan, and as you can see from the slide as well, Amber Watson, who works for UCLan's website, stated on the website that more than 200 Year 9 students and 10 boys from 13 different schools took part in the Lancashire School Games handball competition. So straight away this was a test for me and Lewis, because you're not just dealing with a class of 30 or a class of 20 or whatever, you're dealing with more than 200. So straight away we had to look at, right, if there's 200 people, we needed to staff and get enough members of staff to deal with the appropriate numbers. So straight away we had to make sure all our peers at UCLan on the Sports Leagues course was available to do this. So straight away we had to organise with them, whether it was through email, through text, through Facebook messages. Thankfully we managed to get everyone involved. So some did more than others during the event. It was also the first ever handball games, school games, that was at UCLan, so straight away this also added a little bit more pressure onto me and Lewis, because not only was it representing the Sports Studies course and the Healthy Schools project, but it was also representing UCLan as a whole. So this could have been do or die for UCLan. If me and Lewis had gone in and messed everything up and weren't organised and didn't have everything planned, then the school games would not be held at UCLan again. So straight away me and Lewis had that extra pressure of, right, we need to sort something out, we need to get it spot on, and from my understanding in the next couple of slides we did that. So what was required from me and Lewis? So me and Lewis had to negotiate and organise things with Tim Fletcher, who is the Lancashire Schools Games organiser, so quite a main organiser. So straight away this was the main organiser of the school games, so me and Lewis had to negotiate what the timings, where we'd place the schools, what schools were involved. If any schools had to drop out, we had to change rotas around and change fixtures around as well. We also had to negotiate with Andy Clark, who is an England handball referee, so straight away this was done, making sure we had enough referees for the day, making sure everyone knew the rules, and also making sure that everyone was confident enough to go in and deliver. So not only that, but leading required organisation with peers throughout the day. So for example, I'll touch on in a second about lunch breaks, when people could go for lunch, what people were doing at certain times, making sure no one wandered off, making sure people were looking after their specific school the whole day. Also, we're making sure schools were placed in the right area and remained settled throughout the day. So with over 200 people, as it's competition as well, it was recipe for disaster really. Thankfully it didn't happen, as there was always enough students or UCLan students knocking about to see, right, this school is out of area, where are they, let's get them back in place. So it worked perfectly really. Thankfully there was no altercations between the schools away from the court, so that was a major positive for me and Lewis, as with competition and with lads as well, it could have been worse than we could imagine. Not only this, but making sure you had enough referees was a major point for us, because you needed a minimum of 2 referees per game. There was 2 games going on at the same time, so 4 referees. We then also had to make sure, like I've just said, enough people were staffing upstairs with the other schools. So, like I said, communicating with peers as well through break times, and also if any schools had any problems, for example if they had any refereeing problems, me and Lewis were the go-to people, so we had to report back to Tim Fletcher and Andy Clark as well, also with Chris and Andy yourself. So straight away we were the go-to people, so if we didn't pass on a message of something going wrong, then the school would or could potentially put a complaint in. So, how did the day go? On a personal note, and also speaking to Lewis Williams as well, we thought the day went really well. So we've been given here the website of UCLan, where there was a few little quotes from different people who participated or organised the event as well. So straight away, the teacher, Jonathan Vinnie from Lancaster Royal Grammar School, who won the competition, stated, "The boys had a fantastic day, they played some excellent handball against some very good opposition and were delighted to come away as winners. The venue was superb and the tournament was well run and organised, thank you to everyone involved." So straight away, the winners of the competition thanked the organisers, who were me and Lewis, as well as Tim, Chris and Andy Clark as well. They thanked us for it and said it was superb. So straight away, for a teacher to come in and say that about the organisation is a major positive towards me and Lewis. As well, lecturer Chris Gunn, also stated the students have performed admirably in helping to run this tournament, which has given them lots of practical experience and vital links with local schools. It's also about improving their employability skills and building confidence. That from Chris I could not agree more with. It's allowed me to develop my confidence as a whole. Confidence was built from liaising with schools, straight away from organising with schools, when they're coming, how they're going to get to UCLan, who's going to introduce the day and stuff. And then also through refereeing as well, that was a major confidence boost, because it was a sport that I'd never participated in before really, especially at a competitive level, so to learn the rules and go straight into refereeing was a major thing as well. Not only this, but the Lancashire School Games organiser, Tim Fletcher, also added, "It's taken a big team effort to run the competition, the venue is ideal and UCLan students have done a great job, so hopefully we'll be back next year." The link's also attached to the website if you want to view it, but this was a major positive, because if things had gone wrong and if Tim Fletcher weren't impressed by what had gone on, UCLan ran the risk of not having the games again. And the fact that he says here that hopefully the games will be back there next year suggests that me and Lewis and the fellow peers of UCLan really did do a good job and really did press the main organiser and the main person who really associates and organises a lot of events and also has a lot of contacts maybe for future references as well. However, everything didn't run that smoothly. It wasn't a perfect day, there were some problems, and one major problem I personally faced and Lewis also faced as well was when it came to lunchtime with a lot of students. So with a lot of peers, we allowed as you can see on the slide, a maximum of 20 minutes with 2 people going at a time. This was to stop disruption from refereeing and looking after school. So if there were 20 minutes, they could grab some lunch, have lunch out, or they could take it back to the sports hall and could chill out for a little bit. However, 97% of students peers were excellent. They listened to us. However, there was 3 in particular peers, I won't name them, that decided to take advantage of me and Lewis's rules. They went for lunch and they took 45 minutes, leaving us short-staffed for refereeing. There were schools being unattended, and there was also people doing multiple refereeing games, which didn't go down too well. So this was a real test, because at the end of the day, these were our peers and our friends as well. So how did we approach it? At the end of when they came back from lunch, I pulled them all together, told them that it wasn't acceptable, told them that they'd really disrespected me and Lewis, and also all the schools that also disrespected the peers as well. They also were pulled individually by me and Lewis as well for us to tell them that they'd let everyone down, and that if they carried on, then they would be reported to Chris and hire people within the organising the event as well. And if I'm honest, that did make an impact, because when we did speak to them in the afternoon, they seemed to be a lot busier with what they did. They reffed the games a lot more, and they also showed a little bit more respect to Lewis, and me as well. Not only did this happen, but it also pulled the attention of the other peers of UCLan to notice that me and Lewis weren't there to be taken advantage of, and that we were there on a serious note, and if anyone messed about, then we weren't afraid to shy away and be like, oh, it's okay because you're our friends. We really did want to succeed that day. So, what teaching theories did I use during the school games? So, behaviourism. It's a world view that assumes a learner is essentially a passive respondent to environmental stimuli. The learner starts as a clean slate, and behaviour is shaped through positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement. So straight away, as a referee and as a UCLan student, when I was refereeing or when I was watching games, I would positively reinforce a lot of students from the Lancashire school games who come in, positively reinforce them during the game. Straight away, with positively reinforcing them, it allowed them to become a lot more confident during the game, making the decision making a lot better. And also, you could also tell from someone like ourselves who they would potentially look up to, it allowed a lot more confidence to come out in them. They became a lot more talkative, and they became a lot more happy as well during the school games. So I personally felt that using behaviourism was a real critical point for me through teaching, through the teaching theories there, because it allowed students to progress and also allowed them to gain a little bit more confidence and enjoy themselves a little bit more. So attached here, there's pictures of Chris's email that he sent to all the students, and also attached some lecturers from UCLan University as well. It goes on to say, on the right hand side, it goes on to say also congratulations to Lewis and Max for their great efforts and making sure there was coordination between the university organisers and yourselves. Well done all today, a great effort. So straight away, this is coming from Chris, who is the leader of the Healthy Schools, and for him to show appreciation to me and Lewis was a major confidence boost and a major positive on how that day went and how our leading day of the Healthy Schools went as well. So, moving on away from the handball championships, there's also been days where schools have come into the sports arena and have also been taught different sports throughout the day, and this is classed as the Healthy Schools project as well. So one particular day was the 16th of April when Preston Muslim Girls' School came in. As they came a little bit late, we were left with less time to do our lessons, so we had to adapt straight away. So we had to use the adaptability trait straight away to shorten our lessons down and shorten our lessons plans down to then relate and make it a little bit more enjoyable for the girls coming in. So as you can see on the presentation, there's 2 pictures of me in action, so bringing the students over, bringing them away from other courts. On the other court to the right hand side here, there was no one on it at the time, so I had them facing the empty court instead of the court over here, which was full at the time. So all eye contact and concentration was on myself and not what was going on around them. So what teaching styles did I use with the Preston Muslim girls? So coming back from assessments from peers and also from lecturers, for example Andy and John, I used command. So the command on here is where the practitioner myself makes decisions and participants copy and comply with decisions and instructions. So because we only had 20 minutes, what we did as a group was we got them straight into games. So I would tell them what was expected in games and then how you would play, also explain the rules, what I wanted, and the girls would follow as well. Not only did I include command, but I also included inclusion as well. So when they were playing, I didn't really involve myself, didn't really get too involved. I let them decide positions they made. I told them I want them to gain a formation. That was it from me then. So I used command and then I used inclusion to let them choose what positions to be in and where to play and the tactical knowledge as well. What I should have done as part of inclusion as well, and as part of the other teaching styles, I should have included a little bit more self-reflection. I was using more coaching techniques and teaching styles, if I'm totally honest, and I didn't let them self-reflect at the end, which was a major downfall on myself and also a major downfall for them as well, because they did the lesson and some of them will have gone away knowing what they learned and some of them wouldn't have gone away knowing what they'd learned as well. So also, like I've just mentioned, another teaching theory that I used for Preston Muslim Girls' School was constructivist. The teachers from this certain teaching style encourage students to constantly assess how the activity is helping them gain understanding. The theory suggests that human construction knowledge and meaning from their experience. This is where I wish that I'd included a little bit more in the teaching theory side on this behalf, because as you can see from the 2 there, when the presentation gets sent over to you, you'll be able to see a little bit clearer as well from the assessments done here. This one here is by Andy and one's done by John. They both come to the same conclusion that I didn't ask the girls to self-reflect. So I've come off both times, and as you can see on there as well, eventually you'll be able to see, is that I've come off both times not asking them to self-reflect on what they've done. So like I've just mentioned, they didn't know, and you'll be able to see from there as well, they didn't know what they'd done or how they'd done it. So for me, that is something that I need to include, and that I will include eventually into my lessons as well, because it's all well and good just turning up, teaching and then leaving, but if Ofsted came in and said, right, what have you learnt to the girls, would they be able to give an answer? Would they be able to give Ofsted what they want to hear, and would Ofsted be happy with the answer that they give? Or will the girls turn around and be like, oh, I don't know? So that is something I really need to consider moving forward within my teaching. So, what I was really happy with my participation in the Healthy Schools is that, as I mentioned earlier on in the presentation, it allowed me to gain a better understanding of the national curriculum. So lesson plans were based around the fundamentals of the national curriculum, key stages 4 and 3. So the day was planned around the curriculum's aims for the pupils as well. So one of the main key areas of the national curriculum is to develop competence to excel in broad ranges of physical activities. So the national curriculum saying there that I need that as a teacher, your lessons need to range over a wide aspect of sports, not just one. And this is what I have done straight away, because obviously I've done the handball, I've also done dodgeball, and I also did rounders as part of Healthy Schools as well, which is covering all aspects, which is covering this aspect of the national curriculum, because I'm not just concentrating on football, for example, and not just doing football. I'm looking at a wide range of sports and coaching the students that came in at a wide range of sports and not just one in particular. Another curriculum point is that they are physically active for sustained periods of time. It's not so straight away. Our sessions were minimum 20 minutes long. So this straight away is a sustained period of time. They're not just working for 5 minutes then moving on or having rest. They're working for a good amount of time, which will get them healthy, active and engaged as well. Again, like I've just touched on then, so linking that with the next point of the national curriculum, 2013, and the aim to engage in competitive sports and activities. So throughout the day we'd do a little bit of skill-based, and then towards the end we would introduce competition afternoon. So in the afternoon after lunchtime we would do competitions, and the best group would have a little winner as well. So straight away this relates to the national curriculum and gives me a better understanding of the national curriculum, because it allowed me to organise the competition games as well. So it allowed me to give a better understanding, and it allowed the games, and it allowed the Healthy Schools, should I say, to relate to the national curriculum by giving them activity through sport and competition through sport as well. So also relating to the national curriculum as well, use a range of tactics and strategies to overcome opponents in direct competition through team and individual games. So it's done through sports like handball, like football, where before every game that I would do, I'd tell them, right, go set yourselves up in a formation, decide how you're going to play. So it gives them the option then to give them the chance of, right, I need to think of tactics, I need to think of strategies. So it's straight away linked with the national curriculum. Not only this, but the national curriculum also says take part in outdoor adventures and activities which present intellectual and physical challenges, and be encouraged to work in a team, building on trust and developing skills to solve problems, either individually or as a group. The Healthy Schools related straight away to this through orienteering. We had an orienteering day where schools came across Lancashire again, where they came in, and within most schools as well, they wanted orienteering. So we allowed the national curriculum to link into our Healthy Schools by offering them that. So how did the Healthy Schools relate to teaching standards? So in part one of the teaching standards, it suggests that you must set high expectations which inspire, motivate and challenge pupils. Straight away we set safe goal setting and positive and a good attitude as well to pupils. The teaching standards also suggest that you need to promote good progress and outcomes by pupils. This was done by giving pupils responsibility and also using behaviourism as well as a teaching theory to give them good feedback and good knowledge on what they've done as a pupil during that day as well, and how they impressed us. Reasonable knowledge of the national curriculum we needed. So straight away, like I've just mentioned on the previous slide, we linked our sports and the national curriculum's aims to our lesson plans and our Healthy Schools projects in general. Also adapt teaching to respond to the strengths and needs of pupils. So this is when you need to differentiate lessons as well. So for example, what we had to do during one of the handball sessions that I did as part of the Healthy Schools was, for one team in particular, changed the rule of, because they were winning by 5-0, was right, and we're doing competition day, so we didn't really want to change the teams around. I turned around and said, right, you need to make 5 passes before you score, just to make it a little bit more competitive, so the other team had a little bit more of a chance as well. So how did it relate to the personal learning thinking skills as well? So the PLTS model allowed me to base my lessons around their aims and what would be ideal for them to improve as people. So effective participators was one of the main personal learning thinking skills that I used during my time on the Healthy Schools. So so this would be getting them to try and influence others, for example, motivating pupils to perform for team in sport that they didn't like. So there was a lot of pupils that came in and didn't like sports such as football, which I had to do, handball as well. So it really was a test, and I had to use effective participators because I had to try and influence them to get involved in sport that they didn't like. I had to alter the needs. For example, what I had to do in one group was there was a girl sat down on the floor. I said that they could be on a team because they were on separate teams. As I put them on a team, they were happy to work together then, they were happy to get back up, they were happy to participate in handball at the time as well. Team workers as well, for example, collaborating with each other to reach common goals. This common goal during the Healthy Schools was to win the competition. So straight away, this was linked in with the Healthy Schools because I was getting them to compete with each other and work together. However, they're the things I did use in the personal learning thinking schools model. What I could have done is make them become a little bit more self-managers, so let them have a little bit of a self-lead, and also become reflective learners. Like I've said, that was the major downfall for me during the Healthy Schools project. Moving on. So as you'll see, this is my appraisal from AFC Filed, so you'll be able to see better when the slides come over, when the presentation and slides come over. So what I'll do is I'll talk about my strengths and weaknesses of that, and strengths and weaknesses I thought from the Healthy Schools project as well, through my SWOT analysis now. So the strengths I found whilst being on the Healthy Schools and being on placement at AFC Filed was I gained greater understanding on the national curriculum. So whereas I went from limited knowledge, I feel like I have a good knowledge now of the national curriculum, and now I also know how to understand and how to link the national curriculum with teaching lessons and also sessions as well. I also gained my confidence a little bit more. I said that was a positive on the previous slide, on the previous presentation, but I also feel like I've gained it a little bit more, because this allowed me to lead under pressured circumstances, for example the school games, and it also let fellow peers know when something was unacceptable, like I mentioned with the 3 individuals during the handball championships as well. It also allowed me to gain my leadership strength as well, by telling pupils and teachers what to do and how we were organised it and what times we were on, and telling pupils what to do as well. Also organisation of peers and pupils, so organising them where, for example, going for lunches, everything was perfect bar those 3. Also timings as well, so when they were coming in, what time we expected them there was no one ever late to the Healthy Schools project. And also for myself, and for example from the other presentation, was time bound. Obviously I turned up a little bit late on the day for the other presentation, and it was a thing in my presentation that I said I need to improve on. This was a key attribute that I did improve on as I was on time and set up always, and I also got my timings right for the next sessions going on as well. Areas to improve. So on the appraisal, there was from AFC Filed was my session plans being in a little bit more detail. Couldn't agree more. This could have been done with laziness and a lack of maybe understanding of what to improve in my session, what to include in my session plans as well. Adaptability as well. I did change a little bit, but maybe I could have changed a little bit more for others. An understanding of how to structure lessons as well, maybe as well. So coming under that is what the pupil is there for example, is it for learning or is it for enjoyment? So again, reflecting again. Lack of reflection on my own practice, so I should have related to the Gibbs cycle, which is on there as well. So this could have allowed me to understand, right, so I've made the mistake of not reflecting in the first Healthy Schools, I need to reflect using the Gibbs cycle there to improve in the next Healthy Schools, and maybe include a little bit more reflection for the pupils there. Also, authority and behaviour management was okay, but also a weakness as well, because like I said, there was girls sat down at one point from Preston Muslim Girls School, and I had to try and get them to after a while I got them engaged straight away. I should have been like, right girls, this is what you need to do. I was a little bit too nice to people when teaching. I need to get that borderline between rapport and respect as well. So opportunities. So what I've learned about opportunities during my time on placement. So again, a recent survey showed 2/3 of employers look for graduates with relevant work experience because it helps them prepare for work and develop general business awareness. So straight away, the Healthy Schools allowed me to gain that experience, that to get a PGCE from UCAS there that I need. So straight away with AC Filed I've done 52 hours, with Healthy Schools and UCLan I've done 30. So overall I've got around 80-90 hours, which is a major positive for me, as then this can go on my application towards UCAS and towards my PGCE, and hopefully this will let me get in a better situation and get myself on. It all, like I've just said, it allowed me to get over 60 hours experience. With UCAS looking for experience, the module has allowed me to develop knowledge and experience in both high school education, primary school education, and also college education as well. So it's allowed me to differ into each one, which then I can put in my application to UCAS and the PGCE course, and it looks like I've gone over the 3 key stages that I want to look at, and that I'll have knowledge in each different area. It's also given me contacts as well, and emails for future jobs and references, and also it's allowed me to develop as a professional in the area of work that I'm interested in as well. So what threats do I understand now that come with PE teaching and come with teaching? So people all over the country are looking to gain experience. Some may have got more than I have, or some might have done, or may have gained more contacts than I have whilst I've been out on work experience and placement. So one of the key things as well is failure to meet demands. So a minimum of 2 degrees or equivalent. We must have that to get on a PGCE course. This here, when you'll see it comes over from Beechcroft AP Academy, this was off their job application site. We are looking for an experienced PE teacher. This job is about more than teaching, it's about turning lives of vulnerable learners. Yes, it is a big challenge, but it's also an inspiring opportunity to work with young people with complex needs who require extra support to achieve their ambitions. So straight away, they require experience. Again, the hours from Healthy Schools probably won't be enough to gain a job at Beechcroft AP Academy. We now look at the final point on the slide, which is competition for job roles. So there's an article on The Guardian, which is also on a reference list, where it goes on to suggest, from The Secret Teacher, the article's called, goes on to suggest applying for a teaching job it's like being on a reality TV show. So if you think of a reality TV show, how many people go on that show to get that one place, that one winner? The Secret Teacher on The Guardian relates that to a reality TV show. So what they're saying through that is that there's loads and loads and loads of people applying for teaching roles, but there's only one person getting it. So overall it shows that there's such a high demand to become a teacher, so that automatically poses a threat to us as undergraduate students, as there's going to be at least hundreds of undergraduate and people who have had teaching roles before applying for jobs as well. So coming from an undergraduate student myself, I need that experience and I need those qualifications that will make me stand out over someone coming from the likes of London University or Edge Hill, or even from a school. So finally, ultimately, am I ready to teach? So from the first presentation, the answer was a straight no. I didn't understand the national curriculum. I didn't feel like I had enough experience within teaching. However, presentation 2, my answer is yes. Why is it yes? I give the answer that The opportunities that I've had on placement has allowed me to gain the experience that I feel I needed to understand on how to come across with children and pupils, how to act with them, the way I talk to them, how it differs between ages. Not only this, but given that experience to go in and teach somewhere and to teach the ages that I wanted to teach, it's allowed me to understand how the national curriculum and the personal learning thinking skills, the teaching strategies and the teaching theories as well, all linked together. So in presentation 1, I didn't really understand how they linked together and how it related with physical education and PE teaching, whereas now I do have a clearer understanding, and I feel myself that this is something that I've really improved on in knowledge. And if I had to go into a school tomorrow and deliver a session and spend a full day there, I think I would be able to succeed and I wouldn't struggle at all with it. Like I said, the experiences has given me confidence to develop my own knowledge and also perform lessons for pupils. And as William A. Ward says, the mediocre teacher tells, the good teacher explains, and the superior teacher demonstrates. The great teachers inspire.